Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are hopping into our next series. Is going to be Semper versus MCanning. This is going to be a best of 3 in the losers bracket round of 6 or round of 8. This is losers bracket round 1, basically. So it's going to be a Protoss versus Terran once again. Semper playing versus another Protoss, but this is a very different type of Protoss. This guy is known for his disruptor play. He's known as a streamer for many people, but he has come out into the scene lately in the past few months and really shown everybody that this guy can actually contend with some of North America's finest. Taking a look at these two guys, if you're not familiar with them, of course, we already talked a lot about Semper, but MCanning, the man who, you know what, that number is just inaccurate. I know that he's won more than $55 now, okay? Somebody is not updating that number. He won more than $55 during last season of Challenger, okay? Just trust me on this. He has won more than $55, but still, he has not gotten that massive result that I think he's really been looking for. Taking a look at their series results, they played 2 series in 2017. Semper taking every single game, so can MCanning take his first game off his opponent? Not just series. We'll find out as we hop onto Abyssal Reef. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are hopping into our first match from the losers bracket round 1. We have spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, the red Protoss player from Flipside Tactics. Give it up for the disruptor god MCanning. And his opponent spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Just played a really awesome Terran versus Protoss, but just barely wasn't able to close it out. Give it up for OSC Roots, Semper. Well, the nice thing is, even though Semper comes off of a loss, and MCanning, of course, doing the same, MCanning just played Scarlet, so he was just playing Protoss versus Zerg, and there does come a little bit of an advantage in having the time, or not having to do the context switch of, okay, no longer playing versus a Zerg, I gotta get into that PvT mindset. Don't have to worry about Ling run by, that to worry about drop play, and all these other things are different on your mind, whereas Semper just kind of thinks, okay, I'm playing more PvT. TVP rather. Just gotta do more of the same. I gotta fix some of the mistakes that I've been making. I know what kind of groove I'm in today for Terran versus Protoss, and I just gotta keep executing on it. So we do see the Reaper opening coming out over here. Again, I feel like Semper is gonna be a little bit favored coming to this, but MCanning didn't go down to Scarlet just quickly 3-0 anything. He did take a game off of her, and Scarlet is pretty damn good. Killing off the Reaper, the Photon Overcharge. Always good that you're able to kill the Reaper with the Photon Overcharge. The most aggravating and just mind-tilting thing that can happen early on in a Protoss versus Terran is that you Photon Overcharge to kill the Reaper, and the Reaper gets away. You don't quite get the final hit off. So MCanning at least going to start off somewhat strong, but is going to be able to get up that robotics facility going into what seems to be his kind of typical playstyle. Mudshcore also moving around looking for any types of proxies that could be happening. He's seen that there was a Rax, like 1 Rax expansion coming out, but still maybe a little bit concerned about weird play on this map. Depths are going to be able to shade in past that Widow Mine and scouting around, seeing, okay, this is your Marine counts, these 4 Marines. You might be able to identify off of that there's a chance for the Widow Mine drop. There's a chance for other kinds of things to come out, but the fact that MCanning going for the robotics facility, it makes me wonder, because MCanning has been going for more and more of these not disruptor play styles. If you've been watching a lot of his stream, like I have, you'll know that he's been playing around a lot more with different types of openings, doing a lot more of the Stargate openings, messing around with more resonating glaives, and just even some Colossus play I think I've seen every so often. Charge slot. A lot of DT play, actually. But that's always hard to tell if he's just trolling around, if he's really, really trying to make the DT plays work. Blink DTs and whatnot. Either way, MCanning going to go into the very quick robotics play. We'll see if he goes to disruptors or Colossus. If he's going to stay true to his name, Semper historically has had a bit of a problem dealing with disruptors, but Semper going to be able to get some really good damage done in over here inside the natural expansion with just that Widowmine drop. Remember, this is all off of just one medevac worth of Marines and that Widowmine. Widowmine does get cleaned up, but the Marines unload inside the main base, and more damage is going to be done, at least in lost mining time, if nothing else. Stalkers also coming in 1 or 2 at a time, so taking a bit of damage. And I think that these Marines can even load up into the medevac and escape out of here alive, if he so chooses to. But no, he gets the pylon, powering it, or depowering it for a little bit, but ends up sacrificing the medevac in exchange for it, so not sure if it was worth it. But whoa, we do see the Colossus coming out, not the disruptors. Liberator gonna be sieging up inside that natural expansion, killing off 2 workers. But look at all of this lost mining time. Actually, surprisingly enough, yeah. MCanning bouncing back pretty quickly on that mining, but I guess Semper is still getting up his own mining, getting up those gas geysers. Hasn't really gotten up a 3rd expansion just yet, but it's starting to get it about halfway finished. Nice little lead over MCanning. MCanning going after the rocks, trying to open up the pathway for him. Going for the double forge as well. So we are seeing a playstyle somewhat similar to how Bale's played in that last series, but no Blink being researched. We don't have a Templar, or sorry, Twilight Council out just yet, so that is a bit of a difference. He tries to go into slightly faster Colossus. The only problem is he's been delayed by taking a lot of that early aggression. His 3rd expansion isn't quite as fast. Just, I guess the multitasking puts him a little bit further behind. We'll see if he can bounce back from that by just powering up a massive number of Colossus with a very fast thermal lance upgrade. In the meanwhile, though, Semper doing something similar to what he did versus Bales. He does that kind of Widowmine aggression. He follows it up with the Liberator harassment and gets up these siege tanks behind it to try and defend against any form of just counter-attack aggression. If you get a lot of damage done, sometimes Protoss players, or just any player, whatever race in general, if you take too much damage sometimes economically, your first gut reaction is, we'll just go for the big counterattack. And the siege tanks are a big way of saying, no, not going to let that happen. It also allows Semper to get a lot more aggressive out of the map. He doesn't have to leave his units back at home to defend, because he can rely on reinforcing rallied-in units to just try and protect the siege tanks, and the siege tanks are the big power units that allow him to be aggressive. And he moves out along the left-hand side of the map. MCanning trying to play a bit more conservatively, defensively. Scouting around primarily with Hallucinated Phoenix, it seems like, as this is his first real scout out in a long time. Sees the 3rd expansion is already finished up, and sees that main base looks pretty much exactly what he would expect it to look like. All the barracks finishing up, going to be getting up some more of those add-ons, but what he really wanted to have seen is the fact that there's nothing over the natural expansion, that this army is out on the map and ready to move into that 3rd. Colossus and the Stalkers are all over there. Blink is also being researched right now, with a couple of Stalkers even sitting inside the main base. I don't believe... Okay, Observer did get picked off at some point. I don't know if it was just right there. Could very well have been. But MCanning so far doing an okay job of splitting up his units, and now moving into that disruptor play. He gets up to 2 Colossus only, and then moves straight into disruptors. And this is where he finds his strength, and I think Semper does find a bit of a weakness. Semper also going to be a little bit weaker on those upgrades. Only had that 1 engineering bay. Was getting up a fusion core for the Liberator range upgrade, but fusion core not going to be helping out too much, considering he's going to be much further behind in upgrades. I mean, not helping out with the upgrades specifically. One photon cannon finished up. Second photon cannon on the way. Photon overcharge also going to be used, but that pylon will get depowered very, very quickly. Second pylon also going to be adding in some extra DPS, and the disruptor forces the lift up and pushes his army back. This is the nice thing about the disruptors, is that you can force lift ups against drops that are in a very, very precarious situation. Oh, blink forward onto your own disruptor shot. Not ideal, but he does snag the medevac, so it's not the worst trade in the world. I would say trading out one stalker for a medevac is actually okay, especially if you kill a couple of units inside of the medevac. But fourth command center actually coming down now. Semper tying this up in terms of economy with MCanning. Seems we finally have an armory on the way, but a really, really late armory. By the time this armory finishes up alongside the +1 armor, MCanning with Chrono Boost on both of these forges should be able to have 2-2 out very, very solidly. Big stim forward. There is a decent sized army over here, so a pylon goes down, but not a whole lot else. Semper's going to be able to get out of there safely. We are getting into that weird zone, though, where MCanning is getting up all the disruptors he could ever really want. This is where Semper is going to have to take a big fight versus MCanning and may not have quite the Liberator count he wants. Well, I say that, but he's already got 5 out and he's making 2 more at a time. So 7, 8, 9 Liberators. That's a pretty good max out point, honestly. Most of the time, Terran bio players end up having a lot more bio and only really having enough supply for 3 or 4 Liberators, but it comes at the cost of not having that crazy large number of medevacs that oftentimes Terran players will have. He only has 5, which is enough, but he has to be a bit conservative with his stims. You can see he only has 1 medevac with his army right now. Slowly whittling away at the Nexus. Has to back away from some of those disruptor shots, but Liberator's making this very difficult for MCanning to engage into. Just 2 Marauders whittling away at this Nexus, is already out of shields, and now starting to lose a few more. This 4th expansion is going to go down. Really beautifully executed over here for Semper. MCanning feels like he has to engage in now, but he just can't. That was the freest 4th expansion I think Semper could have ever asked for. Only thing it cost him was a little bit of his time, some APM, and maybe a couple of stims. He's even gonna be able to snag another 4th expansion. No, okay, cancels the 4th expansion. MCanning realizing after seeing that army. And Semper just backs away all the way home. He's done the damage he needs to do. Seems like there was a little bit of harassment happening over here instead of the natural expansion. DT getting some damage done in the 3rd. Kills off 7 workers, which isn't too bad. MCanning at 71, but no 4th expansion. Makes 71 workers a bit of a waste right now, considering doesn't exactly have super optimal mining inside that main base. 7 workers oversaturated in the natural. Oh, 8 workers oversaturated in the 3rd. And we saw how difficult it was for Bales to push up this ramp or into that 4th expansion when Semper just has all of the liberties you could ever ask for. Big blink forward. Oh, okay. Snags a ghost. Semper's Liberators sieging up. And this is what I think Semper is good to maybe struggle with a little bit more versus MCanning just based on how this is going. Ah! Widowbind killing some units. Kills a Stalker. No Observer needed. I was going to say, MCanning may be able to just dart back and forth. He may be the one that actually knocks down these rocks and just moves back and forth faster than the Liberators can really re-siege. And I think that's what you have to do. Also splitting up a lot of these Adepts as opposed to having a big charge lot army. A little bit easier to move them into nice positions to do some harassment. Adepts waiting for their opportunity. He's trying to bait this army further forward. Adepts even moving a little bit further back, killing off a Marine. Massive EMPs have gone down in this army, though. Not a single one of these units has any shields to boot. He does not want to take an engagement right here, but he blinks forward. He can't blink out anymore. He's going to take a few more losses. Adepts do shade into the 3rd expansion. A handful of Marines going to be there to greet them, though. So no SCVs have actually fallen so far, but Now, finally, he's going to start to focus fire down some of the workers. EMP is going off on top of these adepts. He does get the cleanup on majority of them, but 9 workers go down. MCanning has regained some of the shields, but Magicorda gets taken out. Liberator's sieging up. MCanning cannot defend his natural expansion anymore. Semper charges forward, takes out the natural. MCanning blinks onto the Liberators. He gets a pretty good engagement over here. A lot of the Liberators going to go down. Semper needs these Liberators to take a good fight. MCanning gets a good Disruptor shot off as well. A second Disruptor also connects, and this is going to be a cleanup. MCanning loses his economy, but trades out for the army of Semper. Can Semper replenish that army supply fast enough back at home? He's still got a 4th expansion. He's got a 5th expansion on the way as well. Tempests are starting to come out, though. There's a lot of army supply that Semper's got a lot of reason to be so afraid of. With 0 of these Liberators out on the map, and 4 Vikings being produced at a time. Sure, he can deal with the Tempest, he can deal with the Colossus, but can he deal with the Disruptors? Ghosts have been getting some magnificent EMPs in this game. But a couple of good adept run-bys, pulling the army apart. I mean, just taking advantage of the almost 20-30 supply army lead that MCanning has. He can just split up his army a little bit better than Semper should. Okay, here we go. Semper not in the greatest position. He doesn't have those Liberators to rely on anymore, so these choke points are going to be working against him as the Disruptors can just lob out shot after shot. 5th expansion is going to go down without ever having even thrown down a mule or gotten any energy for them. Charge, interestingly, also coming up, as it seems like MCanning does want some sort of transition point. Adepts also shaded into that 3rd expansion, able to get a little bit of damage done. 5 workers killed. Seems like some of the Liberators are finishing up and killing off a Disruptor. I'm surprised. I really thought MCanning was going to be able to get a little bit more damage done over here, but seems like Semper is playing this out very, very patiently. I would say as he sieges up 3 undefended Liberators. Bioforce also getting pushed back once again. All the Liberators have been taken out. The Bio gets taken out by some more of these Disruptor shots. And MCanning is not losing these Disruptors either. I think he's lost maybe 1 in the past 2 to 3 minutes. And the supply lead that Semper was catching up in, supply is finally just going way back in favor of MCanning with another 40 or 50 supply lead. But still, Semper is keeping the 4th mining and alive. Another Disruptor shot going off. Well, killing off some of the bile, also getting some damage done on that planetary fortress. It's not being repaired up. MCanning also establishes his own 5th behind this. He has 3 Tempests out, but where are those Tempests? 1, 2, 3. Okay, very interestingly, just split up around the map. Linking into some of these Liberators is going to be taking a lot of damage to that and the planetary fortress. SCV's finally going to start falling to the Disruptor shots, but I think that this is actually the dream engagement potentially for Semper. He takes a lot of damage, sure, but he's actually trading out relatively okay. Some damage to the economy is being done by the Liberator back over there. That's what those Tempests are for, to try and deal with the Liberators. But MCanning engaging directly into the planetary fortress. Vikings also landing. MCanning has lost so many of these Disruptors. Another Disruptor goes down, but has Semper just gone too ham on any of those Disruptors, trying to get the kills off. Seems like he actually has enough Vikings to take this out. A final Disruptor goes down, and MCanning still leading up in supply. Semper has lost so many workers, but somehow Semper is being pushed, or Semper is pushing back MCanning. And he does have orbital commands to work with. He's got mules. This could even become another orbital command instead of a planetary fortress. MCanning finally is going to start mining from that 5th expansion. I mean, all these mineral patches are relatively fresh. Just showing you he hasn't had an opportunity to. No Storm is going to be out, so really relying on those Stalkers to deal out the DPS, as well as those Tempests, but the Tempest is going to be taken out by the Vikings. No, that's not going to be enough. GG gets called. MCanning taking game number 1 versus Semper. Okay, we are just getting some really, really long games here. These Protoss versus Terrans, I'm not complaining. They're pretty damn fun games. But Semper is now one game away from being eliminated from WCS NA Challenger, as this is the losers bracket round 1. We're gonna find out what map number 2 is going to be. We're just waiting for the game to be made. There it is. What do we have for game number 2? Show me potato salad. Okay, it's gonna be Proxima Station. And this is the map that Semper turned things around on versus Bales. Semper asking for a few minutes. Always asking for a few of those minutes. Can't blame him. It's very much his right to use up all of that time. But talking a bit about that game, I think that Semper, he really wasn't sitting in that poor of a position at first, but gradually those disruptors really started to whittle away at his army, and where he was able to take better and better trades versus Bales with the just massive number of liberators. I think that MCanning actually did a slightly better job of dealing with the mass liberator army than Bales did. He didn't get out the Tempest quite as quickly, and in fact, he didn't even get them involved with the army nearly as much. But his disruptor shots continued to whittle away and really abuse the positions that those two were engaging into. He was able to get a lot better hits on the bio and actually just buy space for the Stalkers, a much larger Stalker ball than Bales had, to blink forward and take out Liberators one by one. Keep the Liberator count from ever getting too crazy high. There's that one engagement where the Liberator count was actually relatively high, around 7 or so, but he was able to take one good engagement there and just prevent that Liberator count from growing, which I think is something that Bale sort of struggled with. He would take a good engagement and, narrow down that Liberator count, but then it would just build up and Bales would be sitting, not as exactly passively, he'd be putting on pressure, but he was never able to break through Semper. He was never able to actually solidify a position in denying expansion. Okay, Proxima Station. Thinking back about how Semper played versus Bales on this map to try and take it, it really was just about that turtling, I think. And actually, turtling is not the right word for it. It was about taking a lot of expansions behind a lot of aggression, which is very typical Semper. That's the most typical Semper I can think of. Being aggressive while taking a lot of expansions behind it. And I think this is a very good map for that. But we'll see how MCanning plays. MCanning, he went for the Colossus into very, very quick disruptor play, often just 2 Colossus instead of typical 3 that you'd oftentimes see with that sort of style. It may catch Semper a little bit off guard if he has to deal with it that much faster. And MCanning also gets up a lot more Stalkers, I feel, early on. I mentioned that before. By the way, some just small bracket updates. We do have in the losers bracket, Volts facing off versus Puck. The winner of that's going to face off versus me. Oh god, those poor folks. Silky is going to be or just beat. Oh yeah, Silky defeated QXC and is going to be facing off versus the loser of, I think it is Peely versus Jon Snow, which is apparently still happening, which is insane to me. That's still going on. But yeah, QXC got knocked out of WCS NA Challenger, and Ray's knocking out Panda Bear Me. Moving on to the losers round 2. Seems like Ray's is going to be facing off versus the loser of Game Time versus True, which is also a series still happening right now, or at least hasn't been updated on the bracket just yet. I don't... Game Time's been in a game for 2 minutes. Let me see if I can find who would he be playing. Has True been in a game for 2 minutes? That's the real question. Or even just Rays. Jay Whipple. No, Jay Whipple's out of game, so I think Game Time versus True is still happening. They actually might be in Game 5 because they started sometime during the time when Bales versus Semper was still going on. I think around game number 4 or so they got started. Okay, well, Semper is really taking his time here, so we're gonna... Oh, no, okay, he's ready. He's finally ready. MCanning is also ready to go, so we're hopping into Proxima Station. We'll see you guys there. Here we are in game number 2, match point, and one game away from this man up here in the top right-hand corner of the map. Moving on to the next round. Give it up for the red Protoss player from Flipside Tactics. It's MCanning, also known as MCanning. And his opponent spawned down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. We have the purple Terran player from OSC Root, and one game away from being eliminated from WCS Challenger. Give it up for Semper. Okay. Got early probe scout. Is this a gateway scout? Yeah, this is a gateway scout. And a 1-Rax expansion. Scout after that barracks gets thrown down. SCV making its way across the map. We don't have a second gas geyser coming out, so Semper is just going to go for that command center of the low ground. He's got the minerals built up for it. No crazy shenanigans. MCanning could be annoying? No. Not going to. He knows that the Marine is coming out. And he's got to be able to make it out of there alive because he knows that. Even a split second later, and that Marine should have been able to kill off the probe. Very, very well timed. But okay, both of these guys have been playing such macro-oriented games, it feels like. MCanning, definitely a macro-oriented player. I've very, very rarely seen him go for any kind of cheese. And by cheese, I mean an early game all-in. Generally tries to play toward the mid and late game. Especially that late game. And Semper, similarly, I think I've seen him go for we saw him go for a proxy Thor rush. Didn't go so well versus Bales, but I think, again, he was hoping to encounter a Stargate instead of a Robo. We'll see what... I don't even know what map number 3 is between these two players. Maybe we'll see Blood Boil again. Maybe we'll see Semper try to do it again versus MCanning. If he can win this game and take it to a game 3, only time will tell. We do have a Robo coming out once again from MCanning. No surprises here. Maybe, I think if there was going to be a map that I expected to see MCanning go for a Stargate on, it would be this map. This map, again, it's so nice for that drop play, the Liberator harassment, etc. And having a Phoenix or even just an Oracle out to do your own form of harassment and, of course, shutting down your opponent's drops, this is probably the nicest map for it. Adept does not make its way into the main base. Not going to finish the Shade either. Doesn't want to lose that, but the Widowmine drop will be incoming very shortly. It just needs to wait for that one medevac to be made. MCanning did a pretty good job of defending against the at least early bit of Widowmine harassment. He got the Photon Overcharge ready, killed off that Widowmine, but then the Marines afterwards unloaded in the main base, got some good damage done. He killed off 4 or 5 workers, lost a lot of mining time. Things started turning around on the second half of that aggression. We'll see if MCanning's a little bit better prepared. He is going for a very quick robotics bay once again. Ooh, scan coming out. Really? That is a really early scan. What is he scouting for? He sees the robotics bay, which I suppose he gets all the information he could ever ask for. I wonder if he was looking around to see if there was a Stargate opening, just because he... No, he saw... Well, I guess we don't know what he saw before. I missed the check on that. I'm trying to think about when he scouted earlier. He only really scouted with the SCV scout, so he should have only seen the one gateway expansion. Shouldn't have seen any attack until just recently. Maybe he was wondering if he needed to build missile turrets. But either way, he knows now that he's going to be encountering some very quick Colossus. Or should be expecting it. Very, very rare to see just immediate tech end disruptors, just because disruptors can be fairly volatile, even for the disruptor god. Widow Mines burrowing in a very peculiar location. Outside of vision range. One Widow Mine goes off, only killing a few workers. Oh, actually killing 6 workers so far now. 7 gonna be killed. He's trying to bait the stalkers into that Widow Mine. He's gonna be able to get it. Boom, down goes another stalker. Observer not on its way out. We already have 2 observers out on the map, but one's out on the other side, and this one is just being rallied in. Colossus takes care of that just in the nick of time. And this Widow Mine should be taken out as well. But the medevac escapes out alive, and that's all you can ever really hope for with those drops. Widow Mines are oftentimes sacrificed for the greater good. Semper going to be really happy with that kind of damage being done. 7 workers killed, and you're going to start to see that start to favor Semper a little bit more and more as those mules get thrown down. Seems like he's been, you know, he did invest he invested an entire mule into that early scan, so it's a little bit weird. I still really am trying to figure out what exactly he wanted to know. If it was just that he was looking for a Stargate or versus a robotics bay, but I don't know how that would have really changed his attack. Maybe he would have left his Widow Mines back at home if there was a Stargate. But there is a Stargate coming out now. A very, very fast Stargate, all things considered. I mean, remember, MCanning is operating on just 4 gateways while grabbing a 3rd expansion, getting up Colossus, and now getting up Disruptors, but also getting up a Stargate. Is he just going to get an Oracle out, or is this going to be just start making some Phoenix? Is he going to go into Phoenix Colossus? Which is going to be a very strong composition, but he's halted Colossus production, so I don't know about this. I'm not entirely sure what he's planning to do with that. Medevac makes it past that poor observer completely unscouted, and MCanning is going to be very out of position to deal with this. But he has the militia core around, so he can at least photon overcharge and prevent this army from just charging into the mineral line. Still, gas mining is going to be shut down. 5 workers get killed off. Semper could react immediately and just pick up and leave. Oh no, but the medevac is going to get focus fire down. Oh, barely escapes. 7 hit points left over. MCanning cannot catch a break. 3rd command center is a little bit later on for Semper to at least get into position, but MCanning's own 3rd expansion only just now going to start mining. Another scan coming down. But the Phoenix cleans up that medevac. Huh? Where's the medevac? Semper, where are you hiding that medevac? Oh, we saw it. Floating down along the south side where this Phoenix thought and maybe went up along the top left. Yeah, really not catching any breaks. And wow, Semper even sieges up in time. Catches a Disruptor, kills a 2nd Disruptor. Takes a few bio hits from that Disruptor. But the Siege Shanks get some really good damage done on that army. Softening up so many of those Adepts. Softening up even the Colossus. Adept shade forward and see that the Siege Shanks have been unsieged. Even forcing another siege up for a little bit, buying some time. Where is this Raven? Okay, Raven's with the army, so we can throw down a point defense drone and prevent these stalkers from laying out the damage that they would like to. Even the Adepts should have their shots cancel out at the point defense drone. Of course, auto turret, the much more common use case for the Raven. Does so much damage, why wouldn't you? Okay, it's going to be 1-1 upgrades, though, versus just +1 weapons. Semper often sitting very far behind on those upgrades. Adepts do finish their shade forward. Siege Shanks getting some okay damage done on this army, even though all of them do get cleaned up. Point defense drone does get thrown down, it seems like. And one of the disruptors gets cleaned up. The time warp, really quite effective over there. It's pretty rare you see effective time warps these days. And Semper doesn't just pick up and go aggressive. He picks up and goes home. Okay, splitting up his army. Loads 3 medevacs, sends them down along the south side. Has a couple more medevacs now moving up along the north side. Possibly to where the gold expansion would be taken. That is oftentimes where a 4th expansion attempt is. But Semper's going to go for the slightly more tucked in 4th. That's a bit further out of the way. A little bit harder for a big doomsday deathball army like MCanning's to push forward into. But the 3 medevacs make their way in along the right-hand side. The Adept does not catch wind of it. It was just barely out of vision range. Scan comes down. Semper's looking for the army before he commits in. No, he's going for it. Moves into the natural expansion. Being able to take out these pylons being photon overcharge. MCanning tries to move back, but he realizes that this is going to be a bait switch. He leaves half of the army over at the front. Tries to rally in the rest of it, but he's losing so many workers in the process because his reaction is so slow. The Adepts do not shade forward. 21 workers going down. Gold expansion attempt can at least be delayed, although there was no Nexus being built. Oh! One disruptor shot, getting an okay hit over there, but these disruptors are sacrificing their lives. Beautiful split ups from Semper at the last second. Coming from a man who I gotta say I used to criticize for not having good disruptor or splits versus disruptors, and Semper is just charging on forward. All of these disruptors on cooldown. I think that Semper is maybe overcommitting over here a little bit. He is gonna finally pick up and leave. But the drop in the main base doing more than enough damage. GG is called. Semper ties up the series 1-1 on Proxima Station once again. Okay, we are getting some very long PVTs. Another 11, almost 12-minute game over there. As we now get ready to hop into game number 3. We'll see what the map is going to be. This is the point where I start saying, man, I'm actually getting really hungry. You know what's a interesting thought? When you don't eat that big of a lunch, and then you don't eat dinner when you get home because you just came home and started commentating right after work, you start feeling hungry. What a weird, interesting thought. And I don't think we're going to get any breaks. Okay, so Bales did end up losing versus Scarlet. Now playing versus Raze in the losers round 2. Scarlet is playing versus True in the winners bracket, as True did defeat Game Time. Game Time, lost to Silky already in a very quick ZVZ series. And it seems like Silky is now advanced onto the losers round 3. Seems as though Volts and Puck may still be playing out their series. The winner of that's going to face off versus Neve. And the winner of this series is going to face off versus the loser of Peely Peely versus Jon Snow, which I think you can catch over at twitch.tv/Wardy with 3 eyes. But here we go. We're hopping into Sequencer for game number 3. We'll see you guys there. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are in game number 3. It's the ace match, the determining match to see who gets knocked out of WCS and a challenger. As we start up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, top of the red Protoss player. Give it up for Flipside Tactics, MCanning. And his opponent spawning both in the bottom left and also just south of his opponent's base. We have the proxy man himself. Give it up for Root OSC, or OSC Root, Semper. Okay, so I call him the proxy man, but he hasn't really been a man for many, many proxies. Going for the double gas, though. MCanning moves in, sees, okay, you have double gas and you don't have a barracks. I know that you must have proxied your barracks. But the question is, where's the factory? Normally, this is immediately followed up by a factory. Okay, the SCV is treating back. He has enough gas for it now. He has the minerals for it. He can throw it down a command center too, though. Factory's going down back at home. He's got enough room also for a add-on, maybe? Maybe not. This is a bit of a weird wall. Not that he's going to have to worry about too much. Still, the proxy reapers might be able to catch MCanning a bit off guard. MCanning got out a very quick chrono boosted zealot to help deal with this. Militia Corps. Oh, well, there's no stalker coming out. Warp gate technology is also getting further and further delayed because I don't know why. I think this might just be a mistake. What else is MCanning spending his gas on? Is he going to go for a really fast Stargate? Is he saving up his gas for a Stargate? Well, there's a stalker coming out now, as I think he's going to encounter the second Reaper. And there is Warp Gate technology finally getting started up. No Photon Overcharges have been used just yet, so the Militia Corps has been banking more and more of that energy. Should be able to help deal with this, but that Reaper getting a second... I don't know, first kill? First kill. Second kill comes out now. Oh, Photon Overcharge used and not getting any damage whatsoever done. Stalker's gonna be able to come out and should be able to lock down at least one of these Reapers. Gets one of them. There's one, and the second one's gonna be able to escape out alive. Very, very frustrating losses, as this wasn't that big of a commit. Okay, well, this is a kind of big commitment because Semper is on one base. But what is the follow-up? He's got a Cyclone. He's got a very late command center at the natural. He has to get more aggressive off of this. The Reaper's got some damage done, but was it enough? MCanning did delay his own Warp Gate technology by a good 15-20 seconds. His Stalker production also started a little bit later, but he got out an earlier Zealot, and he's getting out his Robo. He's getting up his 2 additional gateways. I think the only danger here is that if oh my god, this is what it is. I didn't see it, but we got Cloak Banshees coming out in a proxy once again. Cyclone also added into the mix. This is where all those resources were for Semper. No observer being made. Oh my god, this could be doom and gloom very soon for Semper. Or sorry, for MCanning. Pylon getting taken out. Cyclone getting another lock on, getting some okay damage on that Mothership Core. Taking out another Pylon, no cancel, 100 resources lost. Probe gonna go down. Another Immortal being made. I think that MCanning is misidentifying what this is going to be. But Semper, he's not pulling up those Banshees. He's not, okay, he's hiding them behind that natural. Maybe if just for the micro potential, because he's trying to micro his best with these units that he has. He loses the Cyclone, but he's buying himself time because now Cloak is going to be finishing up in about 10 seconds, and a Warp Prism is on the way, not an Observer. This Banshee is going to be able to do so much damage. 1 worker killed, 2 worker killed, 3 workers killed. Photon Overcharge being used, and now the Stalker comes in. He's not still not cloaking. There it is. Cloak comes out. 0 mining happening right now. Look at this income. There's 3 workers mining in the natural. The Banshee is finally out now. The Stalkers are going down, though. MCanning doesn't have a good enough economy to replenish the Stalker count, and now he has to stop mining for the main again. Semper has a second Banshee in the natural as well. A second Observer is coming out, but oh god, the damage has been done. Banshee in the main base gets cleaned up. Banshee in the natural. Finally getting pushed back. This has been devastating for MCanning. I just don't know if you can bounce back from this. Hallucinate Phoenix, I think this is a smart decision. That Sentry's going to be a big target anyway, so send it out across the map. See if your opponent has gotten a third CC, if they're going to be following this up with a lot of production and just going for a big secondary push out. You can see that there's a siege tank. This is the thing. I don't think that, well, Semper goes for a second starport. That's kind of interesting. But I don't think that this is hyper greedy play from Semper. I don't know how you react against this. Because he's still got a good economy going. He doesn't have to power economy. But he can just go for a secondary push out a little bit later on. And it's not going to be a super fast one that MCanning can just easily make a bunch more units and be okay. In fact, this Banshee can just even move in over here. Okay, Photon Overcharge used. It's going to force this back. But now the Mushcore only has enough energy for 1 more Photon Overcharge. And this Banshee can move back into the natural. Just try and kill off even 1 or 2 workers and escape out of there alive. Looks like the starport finally ditches that tech lab and backs out. With 2 Banshees now well positioned, both at half health, can move in the moment MCanning moves out. And that's another big frustration MCanning has. He has to play defensive. It's very difficult for him to put on any form of counter pressure. He tried to make that War Prism earlier, but he had to cancel it to get out an Observer a little bit faster. If he had even gotten out that War Prism, I think he would have slightly better chances. I mean, going for the Immortal drops would be really nice over here. Killing off a Siege Tank or 2, killing off some, like a Tech Lab, researching combat shields, or even Stim earlier on would have been nice. Disruptor drops would be really cool. But all of this is really further delayed just because you have to get out the Observer a little bit faster. All Forge is coming up. MCanning also not playing with fire and leaving that Observer inside his main base, ready to detect for the Banshees if they ever make their way back in. Scan coming out, and it seems like that Semper just not only keeping an eye on his opponent's army, seeing the Disruptor is a really nice reveal, but also seeing, okay, I know where your army is positioned, so when I move in, he knows, okay, maybe I can move in with the Siege Tank, siege up on the low ground, start elevatoring units up. He's grabbing a 3rd expansion behind this. The MCanning does scout with the Hallucinating Phoenix. MCanning is doing a great job keeping an eye on his opponent. Cloak Banshee is going to keep that high ground vision as well, taking out a Gas Geyser that MCanning so desperately needs right now. Well, Adept's going to shade forward, but there's no way he can really... Is he going to... He's not going to let those finish, right? He's going to let them finish! Oh, he does soak up a few of the Siege Tank hits, but good focus fires on the Siege Tanks. Actually going after the Stalkers, and with all the Adepts gone, GG gets called. Semper knocks out MCanning and moves on to the losers round 2 WCS NH Challenger. Oh boy, MCanning getting rolled a little bit over there in game number 3, but that is the way the cookie crumbles. Semper doing a great job with that proxy Banshee. With the proxy, I think just catching MCanning so off guard. He did not see that coming in the slightest. Otherwise, he would have made an Observer. Maybe would have made some more Stalkers. Just so many frustrations, I think, coming out for MCanning over there. It's a very frustrating way to lose, but at the end of the day, that is just the way things go. So, with that being said, we're going to hop to a short break while we find our next series. Semper is going to move on to play versus... the loser of Peely Peely versus Jon Snow, which is still not updated on the bracket, even though Jon Snow and Peely are out of game. So maybe that series is finished up. Maybe we'll be able to hop into that almost immediately. Maybe Wardy will try and take that game. I'm not too sure. We'll find out in a little bit. But thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with more WCS NH Challenge.